Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing Content Extravaganza, and if this is your first time here, you couldn't possibly know that I am on a mission to give you everything you could possibly need to be successful in your business, providing, of course, what you need to be successful in your business is to know more about and be implementing more efficiently, more enthusiastically, and more effectively sales and marketing in your business, because that's, of course, what you need. You need more customers more profitably, and eventually everything you need to do that will be right here on this channel. But let's not pretend there's not already lots and lots and lots here if you're looking to get more motivated around your sales and marketing. So what happens on a Monday? I'm here giving away everything I know about sales and marketing. That's the What the series that happens on a Monday. On a Tuesday, I pull in anyone I can find with experience to share with you that will be useful if you're looking to be more successful in your business. That's Talk Marketing on a Tuesday. Every other Wednesday, Melanie Farmer comes through and we look at the marketing news and speculate wildly about what it might mean for you in your business, in your marketing life. And on the other Wednesday, I review so you don't have to. Occasionally on a Thursday, I'm here thinking out loud. And on a Friday, we react to the very best and the very worst of marketing content on the internet. So if that sounds like it might be interesting and useful, please tell me it does. Then now would be the very best time to like, share, subscribe, comment, get involved, because that will give us the motivation to continue on this epic, epic journey. Now, the good news is it's that Wednesday where Melanie Farmer, the concierge of co-creation at Crazy Might Work, comes through. We look at the marketing news. We speculate wildly about what it might mean for you in your life. Good afternoon, Melanie Farmer.
Good afternoon, Martin Henley. How are you, sir?
I am extraordinarily well. You will see that my environment has changed. I've finally moved house, which is good news, but it's all looking a little bit bland at the moment. But I'm happy to have moved, and I'm happy to start investing in making this background as beautiful as the last background. It's going to be a mission. That's my fridge.
Well, I hope it's fully stocked. That's awesome.
It is starting to be stocked. Yes, it is starting to be stocked, mainly with meat and eggs. I'm going to get back on my ketogenic diet and lose some weight is the idea. I'm very excited, if we're talking about this for a second. I'm very excited. I've been a little bit more selective in my scrolling activity on, I think it's mainly Reels that I look at, or YouTube Shorts. And what happens is I've got lots of things like, don't throw your lemon seeds away, grow yourself a lemon tree kind of a thing. Or, here's a thing if you want to lose belly fat, or all these things. So I've stored them all in Google Keep. And now the idea is I'm going to go back and I'm going to start implementing some of these recipes, remedies, kinds of things. So I'm going to become, I don't know what that is, self-reliant, self-sufficient. Just going to invest a little bit more in my health, I think. And I've done the keto thing quite successfully before, but now I'm learning all sorts of stuff. Like you can make pizza base from a tin of chicken. Did you know that?
Wow.
So purely
No,
keto pizza. Like, how could it possibly go wrong? And then all sorts of things. Like, yeah, so that's going to be my new mission in my new house, apart from also taking care of my background so it's as beautiful as it was before. I had no idea quite how beautiful the old one was, but lots of people commented on it and liked it. And I liked it as well. So that's what I've been up to. What have you been up to?
Yeah, gosh, we're getting really happily occupied. I've decided the word busy is a good one to delete from our vocabulary as a planet, because a lot of our clients, the first thing they say when you ask them how they are is busy, and it's associated with fatigue, exhaustion, stress. So I've decided that happily occupied and productive is what we've been in the last few little while. We've been running workshops on islands in the middle of Sydney Harbour, things like that. Really cool, fun programs, and I suppose running it with charities as well, which we love, because they're doing, like, they're dealing with all sorts of international challenges, and the Turkey earthquake and all of that. So it's very rewarding to have to do stuff with clients like that. And then on the other side, it's now autumn in Australia, so it's beautiful. It's just cooled down and leaves are turning red. So really enjoying. I love autumn. I think the older I get, the more I like autumn. And maybe when you're really, really old, you love winter and then you die. So maybe there's this seasonal, because as a child I loved summer. Now summer is like, no. So I'm heading into autumn in every way.
Excellent. I like autumn because I'm a photographer and it gets very interesting with all the colours and stuff like that. When was I in the Blue Mountains? I think I was in the Blue Mountains around this time, yeah, April, May time. So maybe it was autumn then when I was there. It's beautiful. Have you got a brag for us? We like to start with a brag.
Ooh, a brag. Hmm. I mean, I think is this a brag? Okay, I've booked my holiday to Peru. I've been wanting to do that forever, and I feel like you don't want to start asking me questions because that's all we're going to talk about. But I'm super excited about having finally booked a. So it's a 3 week trip. Actually, not just Peru, but to Rio, Iguazu Falls, all of that. Very excited.
Beautiful. Excellent. Just be a little bit careful in Peru. They stole my computer, my drone, my laptop, I mean, I was being stupid. I mean, I did put my bag down in a bus station. Just be a little bit careful in Peru. Like, there is crime happens in Peru. And then I thought the police were going to put me in prison. They thought I was trying to perpetrate insurance fraud because everything of value that I owned was in this one bag. But I managed to convince them not. Yeah, just be a little. Peru is amazing. Peru is amazing. You're going to have an absolute blast. Okay, cool. I think that's a little bit of a brag that you're doing something good for yourself that you've always wanted to do. I think that's a brag. My brag is we're shooting this on Monday. Tomorrow is Tuesday, Talk Marketing Tuesday. I will be posting the 100th episode of the Talk Marketing series tomorrow. It's my good friend Warren Knight. So it's kind of interesting. It's 99 people because I spoke to Barnaby twice. Barnaby's the only person I've spoken to twice, but it's 100 episodes. So what is that? That's 100 episodes. They're all about an hour and 15 minutes long. So it's 125 hours. People like Ed Carr. Do you remember Ed Carr? He's got like 50 years experience. He was like the second person I spoke to. So there's thousands of years of experience in these conversations. And yeah, that's my little boast. I did that and I committed to it. And now there's 100 episodes. And when I started, I numbered the first one 001. Like, because that's can I get to 100? And tomorrow it will be the 100th, or yesterday, depending on. It's tomorrow for us, yesterday for anyone who's seeing this on the day it goes live. So that's my little brag. I'm really, really quite happy to have got there. I think that's cool. Good. And now I can start speaking to people for the second time. So we're going to have a conversation, aren't we, about some of the innovative, interesting ways you're going about approaching customers and engaging customers in meetings and presentations and all those things. Are we going to have that conversation?
Yeah, yes, please. That's really lots to say about that. Lots of fun.
Excellent. Okay, super cool. We'll get that scheduled. But today we're not here to talk about talk marketing. We're not here to talk about Peru. We're here to talk about the marketing news. I'll be very honest. I'm not particularly inspired about what's in the marketing news right now. I've spent quite a lot of time looking. I've found 3 stories that are kind of halfway interesting, but this might be the shortest episode ever. I mean, you've come up with some interesting stories. So give us a sense then. What's caught your eye in the way of marketing news in the last, it's been 3 weeks, isn't it, since we did this?
Yeah, you would think there'd be more to say in 3 weeks. I am following, of course, Chatgpt and AI in general. So that's kind of interesting in terms of, how it's playing out in different sectors. So I've got just a bit of a summary of some of the things that we're seeing in different sectors that are being impacted by ChatGPT and how to use it, the quirky ways to use it. The second thing I guess I'm interested in is TikTok and how they've managed to potentially get banned in the US for various things, and it's to do with their ads. So that's always interesting when TikTok comes up against the US. And then also how YouTube is responding to podcasts. Excuse me. And what they're doing to help discoverability, which YouTube have.
You're alive. Well done.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. No problem. Okay, so what's caught my attention, not really caught my attention, just because of the way we talk about these things always, thought it'd be interesting to look at what Elon Musk is saying about the new verification, the new blue tick, and what that means for your tweets getting seen on Twitter. Google's in trouble again. They're facing another lawsuit, 3.4 billion this time. And the last one I've got is Search Engine Land have done a little survey, and they are thinking about the way, or asking people the way that things are going on in their search engine optimization careers and lives and things. So that's quite interesting. So how are we going to do this? We need to bring some order. So for you, are we starting with the 10 industries that are experimenting with ChatGPT? Is that where we go first?
Sure, we can do
Okay.
that. Start with that.
Okay, good. I'm having a
Yeah.
conversation on Friday with somebody who's very excited about AI. So I'm trying to get a positive kind of aspect on this because mine isn't the most positive outlook necessarily. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Can I make us a little bit smaller? I'll put us over here. Here's the dive business news. So what's going on here? 10 industries that are experimenting with ChatGPT. I mean, in our conversations, it sounds like you also are doing quite well with, or make a good use of ChatGPT. Is that what's going on? You tell us what's going on,
Yeah.
Melanie Farmer.
Yeah. Look. I mean, The Dive is a podcast. They do like 15 to 20-minute daily news. It's an Australian based, they're actually an investment firm. So they're not who you would expect to hear the daily news from, but they are talking about it in line with what this means for different sectors who are either investing, blah, blah, blah. So there's nothing actually on that. You have to listen to the podcast, which is about 20
Okay,
minutes,
all
this
right. So we
particular
can stop
one.
looking at that.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
Good.
so interesting, but no. But one of the things, like that particular podcast, they kind of summarize, only from a couple of days ago, the first law uh, the first case in the US where ChatGPT was a source, um, has recently just closed. So where the judge made a ruling, and the ruling was informed by what ChatGPT produced by way of evidence for that ruling. Now that's very interesting because it's really starting to signal that the outcome of a case in a court of law could be impacted by what ChatGPT tells the court. And in this case, it was an insurance claim. So there's an autistic child. Would they be covered for medical treatment? And the questions that they put to ChatGPT were: Is an autistic minor exonerated from paying fees for their therapies? And has the jurisprudence of the Constitutional Court made favourable decisions in similar cases? And the data provided by ChatGPT led the decision to where they felt that the child should, I think, not have to pay. Listen to it, not have to pay for these medical treatments. And so, but this is just the first. It's the first case in a court of law, and there's in also within the legal sector. Um, there's a new policy in government in the US that has been 70% written by ChatGPT, and then the last 30% of refining that policy has had to be done by humans. But it is interesting for career pathways. So a lot of the grunt work that might have been done by juniors in research and copyright and copywriting and editing and so forth can be almost pre-done by ChatGPT, and to the point where a really robust policy can virtually be written by this machine and then just tweaked. So it's interesting, but I mean, also there are, if people remember when Google first came out, we started to Google ourselves, and it started to be a thing. It didn't happen immediately, but like what is happening now is that people are starting to chat GPT themselves, and so it's interesting to see what Chat GPT thinks of you. And we as a company were pretty happy that it had heard of us, and that it seemed to know what we did, and that it speaks favourably of us and describes us as a reputable innovation design agency. But I do wonder over time if people, as they do now, they will Google candidates if before hiring them, and whether that's fair or not, it happens. So are people going to start chat GPTing candidates and say, what do you make of this person? But what is interesting is that the difference between Google when it first came out and chat GPT as it's new is there's a lot of privacy messaging that is sort of first and foremost when you chat GPT something. So it's saying, well, I don't have this, it has to be, kind of invasion of privacy and so forth. So that language is now embedded within it. That being said, it is searching for what is in the public domain. And if you haven't locked down what you've got in the public domain, there's nothing stopping it telling you that stuff. So it is interesting, and it's. I mean, a lot of teachers are using it to write their lesson plans, and that's saving them a lot of time and making the lessons better in their view. So that's how education is. The education sector is starting to think about these things. Um, but I do think it's interesting that it's starting to make its way into law. When that starts to happen,
and
we've got to be.
terrifying,
You know,
because
yeah,
this is my philosophical position, is like humanity has always wanted an authority. Do you know what I mean? It might have been religion, then it might have been science, and now it looks to me like AI is shaping up to be the new authority. Like, goes back to the Little Britain thing where it's like the computer says no. Well, now the computer says no, and there's no human being in sight to even respond to. Do you know what I mean? So this is what scares me. So what are you saying is that the court or somebody submitted evidence from ChatGPT that said either this autistic child should be responsible for their bills or not responsible for their bills, but somehow ChatGPT offered the answer? Is that what you're saying? And the court took this seriously?
that's right. That's right. So they put these particular questions, which the judge read the questions out, and then they read the answers. And the ruling according to ChatGPT. But saying that, it wasn't that ChatGPT made the ruling. The ruling was made by the judge and jury and so forth. However,
But informed by a computer.
that's right. That's right. Now I don't know
This is
how. It's worrying, right? But I mean, are they verifying that or just going with whatever it told them? That's what you've got to ask yourself. I'll tell you what else is interesting is the medical sector. So we'll come back to the law, but in the medical sector, they're starting to use it to diagnose conditions. So are you going to rely on AI to decide if you have cancer or not? Um, it turns out it's not 100% accurate, but it's more accurate than um, many doctors. So on average, it's doing a better job at diagnosing things. And part of that is because it doesn't have filters. Every human has their own experience and reference points and whatever. So this computer doesn't care. It doesn't say, oh, this is like Jim, who I saw last week. It just sees data and makes a diagnosis. And then the doctor verifies. So it is
yes.
missing things, but it is also seeing things that a doctor might miss, which is
Right.
quite interesting because it doesn't have any sentiment about history and habit and what I've seen previously. So it's not seeing things from its own experience. It's just taking data and saying,
Or
here's what it could
bias.
be.
It doesn't have bias. Okay, so
It
this is
doesn't
what
have this.
computers are good at, is data. And this is,
Yes.
the novel Sapiens, the guy Yuval Noah Harari. I have to look up his name because I'll never remember it. But he predicted in the follow-up book, which was Homo Deus, like man as God, like what was going to be happening with AI. And he said this. He said, like, in terms of predicting how it will work. He's like, why would you employ a lawyer to write you a contract when computers can look at every contract that's ever been written and produce you one in seconds? That is a data analysis presentation job. Computers are good at that. He was saying in terms of medication or medical health or health generally, like, why would you wait for people to start showing up at the doctor saying, look, I've got these symptoms or those symptoms, when you can basically be testing the water in, the water out, the sewage, I don't know, whatever. And no, that's not what you were saying. But you could know somehow that lots of people are suffering from these symptoms, and you could put the medication into the water so that people get the medication they need in advance. I mean, it sounds, when I was reading it, I was like, I don't know when this was, 3, 4, 5 years ago. I was reading it thinking, well, this is science fiction. But now, if they're getting up in court of law and taking these computer programs seriously, that for me is horrifying. Because isn't that the job of a lawyer, is to know the precedent, is to know the case law, is to know, do you know what I mean, in a court of law? And the judge then especially is like the super lawyer who specifically knows that stuff. Do you know what I mean? And is able to judge. Whoa, this is what scares the bejesus out of me, is the idea that these computers are now a higher authority. Like the highest authority should be a judge. Do you know what I mean? Should be a judge. And now the judge is going, let's see what GPT has to say. Jesus, it's frightening. It's frightening.
It is. It is. Oh, look, I mean, I think it's a step, and then there's another step, and the next thing you know. So I'm never a fan of the slippery slope argument where you just say, and the next thing you know, robots are running my life. But you can certainly see the dangers. And I think right now already through COVID in Australia, we have been able to triangulate who has COVID where based on sewage treatment testing. And we also, by postcode, and then we can also test what drugs are happening where and triangulate where drug dealers are, because we can see the presence of, for example, cocaine in sewage treatment plants. So these are that's possible now with data. It's very you sort of think, what does this mean where it comes to privacy and it's very easy to say it's for the common good and so forth, and then where is the tipping point? So that's what I think is kind of interesting. I think the least of our worries is disrupting copywriters and designers. I think that's the least of our worries, honestly, because there's going to be people who need to manage Chatgpt. If you look at Google, like there was a lot of big concern about Google when that came out. Similar sort of, oh no, now XYZ won't be an industry. But as we all know, from Google spawned a huge industry called digital marketing and so forth. Like there's so many industries that have come out, shared economy, but more jobs have been created than lost, one might say. And I can't see that ChatGPT would be really any different. You might disrupt, but then you're going to start having other jobs created. So I'm less worried about. I'm more worried about the power vested in it. And I think that is a collective.
That's what I'm saying. Where they're saying, okay, now the AI is the ultimate authority, because that's when terrible things happen. So the computer says no, because artificial intelligence isn't intelligence. I keep saying this all the time. There's no empathy, there's no experience, there's no sympathy, there's no joy, there's no nothing. Do you know what I mean? These are all components of intelligence. This is data assessment, data whatever it is, and presentation. Do you know what I mean? That's fine. Computers can do that. And I'm not saying let's not be informed by the data, but also let's be informed by the human experience. Do you know what I mean? By a sense of, I don't know, equality or fairness or justice or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So the idea that courts, I mean, I'm seeing here now, I don't know what this is. This is Law and Trends. In a murder case, the HC employs ChatGPT AI to validate an opinion. It's like, no. This is doing, all this freaking thing is doing is pulling content from the internet. You know, and we know that content from the internet is absolute junk. And what humanity's doing is saying, yeah, that's the most important opinion, is the one of the computer. Because the way I use ChatGPT now, I'm also using it to design courses, to put together like course outlines, etc., etc. It's useful. But now what I do always at the end of every prompt, and this is the other thing that's doing my head in, is the idea that people are going to be gifted at making prompts. You'd put in words into a computer, do you know what I mean? But at the end of every prompt, now I say include sources, and amazingly, it will just give you a link from exactly where it's pulled this information from. So that's all that it's doing, is pulling information from the internet. And I don't know if we had this conversation before, but I think what it's essentially doing is drawing a line and saying, okay, there will be nothing human created anymore, because why would you bother? Why would you write something if ChatGPT can write it for you in 3 seconds? So it's drawn a line on human creativity and said nothing new will be created. These very limited number of organizations are now going to profit from all of that history of creation, and there's going to be nothing new now forever. If law, because law, for me, should be the last bastion. Like, these are the most invested in their knowledge. Like, you go to university for 7 years, you do articles for whatever year, 5 years. Like, you are the most invested in knowledge. And if they're just seeding, saying, okay, now the computer knows better than us, it's over for all of us. It's over.
Well,
It's ridiculous.
and doctors too. I mean, you think about a GP, and it's like you've just done a degree in medicine at Harvard, and next thing you know, there's a robot, and they're more accurate than you at diagnosing
Yes.
people. There's a whole other side of it with trust, but you can design trust into a robot and into online web environments. So there are things you can do to make people trust a robot and make people trust a website. So there is that possibility that we start trusting robots when to be our doctor instead of our actual doctor. But I think it just goes very Black Mirror. But I mean, saying that, we have clients who are lawyers that they are not concerned about these things in some ways. They are, but they aren't, because in the end, it's not making the ruling. It's just like you've Googled something, and it's not the only piece of evidence. But what I think it does do is make me backflip on Twitter and the $8 a month story, because I want to know that if ChatGPT is scouring the internet, that it is only using sources that are verified. I don't want it saying, well, someone tweeted something and therefore they're guilty. And I'm like, who tweeted that? Is that A person, B, what are they qualified to have such a tweet, whatever thing? So I want to be making sure that it's in some way it's not allowed to, quote something or reference something that hasn't been A, verified, and B, by a person who would be qualified to have an opinion about it.
Because here's another consideration. Probably the entire American Psycho is on the internet. So how is this AI distinguishing between fact and fiction? Do you know what I mean? Is it going to start saying, well, this guy was murdering these people and he was cool? Do you know what I mean? He had really good hygiene and shit. Do you know what I mean? It's like
right.
Where are
everyone loves him.
Yes.
Yeah, Ted Bundy, very popular. Must be.
Yes.
Yeah, let's see what
really famous, really well known in his industry. Not like Martin Henley. No one's heard of him in his industry. Ted Bundy, really famous, really well known. Look, this is the thing that we should be talking about, which is what I remembered, which is, have you seen this? Elon Musk and hundreds of experts call for a pause in AI development. So this is the conversation we should be having if we're doing a good job of the news. But
listen,
yes, because this is 100% the danger. Is where, not because it takes somebody's job or somebody like that will kind of work its way out. I mean, that is kind of frightening also, that they're talking about depopulation and they only want 500 people, 1 million people on the planet. And now these people don't have jobs and now they become a liability. And all of that's frightening. Yes, but it's the idea that this is the higher authority. This is the God. Do you know what I mean? So you think of all of the abuses that happened in religions historically because God said, and now all of the abuses that might have happened under science, and all of the abuses that because science said, and now all of the abuses that could potentially happen under AI because the computer says. The computer is just regurgitating shit from the internet. That's what it's doing. And we're all we're all just like, yeah, it's so much cleverer than us. It's not. It can't tie a shoelace. Do you know what I mean? It cannot tie a shoelace. It's not cleverer than a 4-year-old. So anyway, oh my
It
God,
can't fall
frightening.
in love.
What's that?
It cannot fall in love. Can't
It
fall in
cannot fall
love.
in love. It can't.
Can't fall in
Can,
love.
can it even have a debate? It can't even have a conversation without, like we saw before, resorting to the worst kind of verbal abuse. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a complete. If it was a person, it wouldn't make it out of the hospital. They'd be like, okay, we have to just finish this one here. It's not going to make it in the world. But and the issue is not the technology. The issue is the authority that we give the technology. That's the issue. That really is the issue. We have to march on because we've spent half an hour talking about this and we've only got half an hour remaining.
Yeah.
But that's a great story. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? It's really interesting.
And
I think, I mean,
can I have
my
a
mate Zach is coming. He's going to talk to me about how exciting this all is. He posted something like, nobody wants to be selling burgers. Do you know what I mean? That's the point for me, is nobody wants to do it. That's why it's work.
I've got two very quick
Yep.
things about just from my point of view is one, pausing sounds good, won't happen. It's even if everyone signed up in the world, like it's not going to be that people just stop developing. There's so many commercial imperatives and so forth, right? So it's not going to actually happen, even though there's a call for it. I have a friend who's a cybersecurity professor, works in AI. She's not a big Elon Musk fan, but she absolutely agrees with him on this occasion and says, yeah, we absolutely should pause. I feel like it's a question about code of ethics that's needed, and then proceed. So in the same way that with psychology, there was no code of ethics, and therefore we were electrocuting people, we were treating, for example, homosexuality as a sign of insanity, and all these, electric shock treatments, as I say, and straitjackets and whatever, until there was a code of ethics, and then things turned around. But they were like separating twins at birth and not telling them all of that. So I think you're not going to be able to stop and pause it, but probably what there needs to be a fast track of a code of ethics with it.
Okay, so aside from the higher authority thing, what's happening is, like, the truth has been under attack since 2016. Like, since Donald Trump stood up and said fake news, like, the truth has been under attack, and now it's over. So, like, you'll see these deep fake pictures of Donald Trump getting arrested, for example, and for all intents and purposes, you don't know if that's him or not. Do you know what I mean? And so the truth is becoming eroded. This is the end for the truth, because you don't know if a human wrote it or a computer wrote it. You don't know if it happened or it didn't happen. And what's going on the other end of that is that people are coming to conclusions so quickly and moving on so quickly, so that they'll think, okay, yeah, Donald Trump got arrested. And then 2 days later, they're not interested to know that actually he didn't get arrested, because they've moved on in their lives. Do you know what I mean? But it will go down as historical record. We are in stupidly weird, dangerous times where who knows what's true anymore. Do you know what I mean? That's the actual danger. And then the argument will be, well, the computer knows what's true and what's not true. So based on what the computer says, this person goes to prison, this person gets medication, this person gets to eat, this person gets a job, this person gets a loan. Do you know what I mean? This is where we are. And like you're saying, people used to Google candidates for jobs. So what if there's a deep fake pornographic video of you, or there's a deep fake picture of you getting arrested, or do you know what I mean? This is already having a meaningful impact on people's lives. And I think if the lawyers are rolling over and saying, yeah, the AI is cleverer than us, we're all in trouble, because the lawyers are supposed to be the cleverest people. And if they're just ready to concede, then, what hope is there for, I don't know, copywriters, people who drive lorries for a living, or, do you know what I mean? Or receptionists. Like, is there going to be AI answering the phones, filling in calendars? Probably. People cold calling. So if they've got an automated AI answering the phones, why not have an automated AI making the calls? Do you know what I mean? like AI is producing already social media content, so why not just have AI read the social media content? I mean, it's really not very difficult to see how humanity actually becomes completely obsolete in this whole equation, does it?
I feel, I feel like we should try to have ChatGPT do this podcast and see what happens. So, like, I could bring a story and say something, then you can type in, and then see what it's see what it says. It's going
Well,
to be a
it
disaster
stops.
because it
It's
is.
only up to 2024. I mean, we've got ChatGPT 4 now, haven't we? So,
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. Let's power through
But
because
meanwhile,
we've got other stories. We've spent 35 minutes talking about ChatGPT. I really don't want that to be the case. Okay, so let's go to another story that I've got here. Google faces new multi-billion advertising lawsuit. Lawsuit has been filed. We've seen this before. It's the claim by ex-Guardian technology editor Charles Arthur alleges Google unlawfully used a dominant position in online adverts in a way that reduced what publishers could make from them. Google said it would fight the speculative and opportunistic action vigorously. It is the second such lawsuit after a similar case was launched in November. That was brought by former Ofcom director Claudio Pollock. I mean, these are not insignificant people. Guardian, Ofcom, who was looking for 13.6 billion in damages from the tech giant. And then here, Google facing another 25 billion legal action, as reported by the BBC. I'm kind of interested. I'm going to do a thinking out loud about, is this how the internet comes to an end? Because it is a little bit trivial, but Devon got hold of my tablet recently and managed to spend £80 on the worst game you've ever seen in your life. And I thought, because I'm an idiot, I'll just let Google know that I didn't mean to buy that and they'll refund me. And they've got no interest in refunding me. Do you know what I mean? And so I was trying to buy some advertising to promote the podcast. And I spent some money with Google and it got absolutely nowhere. And I looked for some support, see if I wasn't putting it together. And there's nothing there. It just seems to me that Google is the gatekeeper of the internet. And if we all lose complete faith in Google, then that could spell the end of the internet. I want to do a thinking out loud about, is this how the internet ends? Where basically Google just completely loses the trust of the global population because they're not very trustworthy. Discuss.
Mm, mhm. Well, my thoughts on trust is where I go with that because we've just published an article, Can You Be Trusted? Um, well worth a read if I say so myself. But it's referencing
Where will
the
they find
Edelman
that, Melanie
Trust report,
Farmer?
crazymightwork.com, and then go to
Excellent.
resources.
Okay.
Um, so the thing about that, we have summarized the Edelman Trust Barometer, which they interview 32,000 people plus. More than 1,000 people per country of the 28 countries that they survey every year. And they describe what's going on with trust. What is interesting is that each year their report has a headline. This year, the headline is Navigating a Polarized World. And so previous years, it might have been, the rise of social media and so forth, right? So this year, 2023, it's polarized world, and they're talking about that. Actually, some really interesting stats in there about that. If something I feel passionately about, if you don't agree, I would not be prepared to work with you. Only 20% of people would be prepared to have you as a coworker, would be prepared to live in the same neighborhood as you, would help you if you were in need. So these are quite damning, sort of message. And on a global basis, we just don't trust people who don't agree with us. And so, but how can you create trust? And so we've talked about in there, we've just unpacked some of the findings from that report. But it is interesting because it talks about social media as being the least trusted sector in the world, the least trusted. And there are reasons why, and that family run companies are the most trusted. And there are reasons why that is. And there are things that they can do. So there are lessons for any organization to think about what they're doing and how they're doing it and their communications to engender trust or to destroy trust. I think that's just really such a fascinating, timely report. It only just came out in March. In fact, it should have been one of my comments. But yeah, I think go have a read, because it's even just dig in. It talks about, you know, particularly social media, how truth is dead and we don't trust. In fact, we don't trust NGOs, charities, politicians. We trust business more than ever. We trust our own employers more than anyone, more than our own neighbours. Now that's new. It's an interesting shift, the trust in employers, but not all. But yeah, so it's not great news for social media as a sector. It's been decimated, and I think probably the theatre of what happened with Twitter in recent months probably didn't help. But there are things you can do to turn around the trust in your own brand.
Yes. And I think the issue right now is that the validity of truth is on the table. Like, without wanting to be over dramatic, I honestly think we're getting to a point where it's been very difficult to discern what the truth is for the last 3, 4, 5 years. And now it's going to become impossible. That's the way I see it. And I think that's why we've got to. Can you hear there's some building work? There's a grinder going on about 5 meters. Are you hearing it or not hearing it?
Very slight. It's not distracting.
Okay. All right, good.
Because your
It's just
microphone
me being challenged to hear you then. Did that journalist who wrote that article reach out to you? Because she reached out to me after our last news. Did you see that?
No, because I would be a passenger and you are the king of the podcast.
No. She said to me that she's going to reach out to you as well. She did say that. Okay, but that's cool. I think I might get her on the podcast. Okay, good story. I think Google is losing trust. If we lose trust, all faith in Google, then we've lost faith in the internet. I think it could be over. Shall we go to another story very quickly? Your next story, TikTok. TikTok's ad business is growing around live sports as platform faces possible US ban. What's the story here, Melanie Farmer?
So, advertisers are spending money on sport, capturing things during sporting events, which is the fastest growing category, it seems, in the TikTok universe. Let's call it the TikTok universe. So it's becoming really the go-to place for digital advertising in terms of sporting events. And so I have to say I'm interested in what they're trying to do is reach, of course, younger audiences and all of that, and certain Super Bowl, basketball, these sorts of things is where you're going to reach those audiences quite often. I'm trying to actually read because I found this story and I haven't, full disclosure, read every little second of it. So I'm reading it as we go. But I just loved the fact that there was this possible ban, and I'm just trying to find the bit where it talks about TikTok is at risk of being banned if its Chinese parent company ByteDance doesn't sell its stake. Yeah. So they are raising concerns about the security risk in the hands of the Chinese government. And it's about the American user data. And because of the growth, sudden big growth, all of that, there's this concern about the intelligence that that's going to produce for the Chinese government. And I think it's because it is the government that really owns TikTok versus it's not technically officially the government that owns, let's say, Facebook or LinkedIn or any of these things.
Right.
And so it's a national security. Interesting.
Yeah, yes. Right. So here's what I think. I think TikTok are by far and away my favorite social media platform. I just think they do everything right. They're looking after their creators. They're providing, like, the algorithm works. It gives me more of what I'm interested in looking at. I saw this guy being interviewed and compared that with Mark Zuckerberg clearly trying to evade issues, whereas this guy was up front. He was strong. He knew. Do you know what I mean? Exactly his stuff. So it was a really assured, I think, reassuring kind of performance from him. And without
Mm.
wanting to descend in politics, we were all supposed to be petrified 3 weeks ago of weather balloons flying over America. Do you know what I mean? So it feels to me like any, for instance, for any opportunity to blame the Chinese Communist Party for something that's going on in America, this administration are going to take it. I think TikTok is a great business. I think it's a great platform. Everyone I speak to who's busy with performance marketing says this is where you need to invest. Everyone I speak to says don't be investing in Facebook, Twitter, Google. They're all being shown how to do it by, I think, TikTok. And this guy was like impressive he's just answering. He's asked the question. He's answering the question. Not like Mark Zuckerberg going, oh, well, I don't really know. He's like, literally, this is our policy. This is it. So interested in protecting children, interested in giving users a good experience, interested in taking care of their creators without having to be chased down to do it. I think TikTok's a great platform. And I think the Biden administration is scared of its own shadow. That's the issue. And also, we just
Yeah,
saw the whole government collusion thing with Twitter just played out. Nobody spoke about it at all. The FBI was sitting in Twitter's offices, is the way I understood it, like saying, take this post down, take that post down, like anything to do with Hunter Biden's laptop, basically take it down because it will affect the election if the world knows that. Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
well, I think we better leave it there, hadn't we, Martin? But
We
I
better
think
leave it
what
there,
is interesting,
yes.
you've got to, I mean, I can see, it's, you immediately read this, and I guess for me, I was like, the US are trying to ban TikTok. Like, I mean, of course, you've got to think about ad revenue, tax revenue, and the interests of the nation. It's hard to accept and believe that they are credible. There is so much money at stake in the failure of TikTok and the success of their platforms, the US owned platforms. Oh, now it looks like it's frozen.
Do you think there might be some financial interest behind these decisions to try and ban TikTok?
I What's that?
You think there might be
What's
some
behind it?
financial interest in trying to ban TikTok? They don't want the competition. Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
I think that as well.
yeah. I
Let's
mean,
move on.
yeah, because
Sorry, what was that?
it's all about trust today. No,
It's
I
all
say
about
it's all
trust
about
today.
trust.
Yeah.
These all
But it's all
truth is
this
like,
is the thing, is that the first thing that you have to do as a business is win the trust of your market. Do you know what I mean? So it's always all about trust for me. Do you know what I mean? This is the first thing you do. And I've said this before, like, how long is it going to be before Facebook or Meta is so toxic that people just don't want to put their adverts there anymore? Or Twitter. At least I think Elon Musk is doing a good job of trying to clean up Twitter and make it a better place. So that's quite a nice segue, is it, to our Elon Musk story? Basically, Elon Musk is saying, Elon Musk says Twitter's For You page will only recommend verified accounts. Twitter users will need a verified account to get recommended on the platform's For You page starting on April the 15th, according to a Monday evening tweet from CEO Elon Musk. Goes on to say that these things don't always come true. But I think, why not? He says also, if you're following people, then you will see their tweets on the page. So the only realistic way to address advanced AI bot swarms taking over. I mean, this is the danger, isn't it? This really is the danger. This is what we're talking about. So you described it as a backflip, not backtracking. You've done a backflip, have you, on Twitter's blue tick verification?
I like verification because of Chatgpt referencing, and if there's a code of ethics in which it can only reference verified accounts.
Yes.
In the TikTok universe, Twitter universe, I feel like that is going to be helpful.
I think
That
so,
is what I
100%.
have to say about the matter.
Yeah. And the thing is, as users, we need it. We need to know who's saying this stuff. Do you know what I mean? The anonymity thing was cute for however long they got away with it, but it's gone way beyond its usefulness. As marketers, we want to know, are we marketing to human beings? Because that's what we need to do still. There ain't no AI that's going to buy your stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because they don't have bank accounts, as far as I'm aware. So we need it. We need verification. And, we spoke about Facebook at doing this as well last time. Elon Musk is doing the right thing, I think. I really hope this works out for him, because it would be the most enormous waste of money in history, probably, if he spent 46 billion on a social media that just got swamped by AI driven bots. Okay, good. One more story. Shall we do one more story quickly? We can do two more, maybe. Um, Podcast companies. This is something that I'm interested in. Podcast companies are turning to YouTube in an effort to build scale and boost discoverability. I think this is kind of what we all know, is that the audience is actually on YouTube, isn't it? That's where everybody is. But what's this story about, Melanie Farmer?
Yeah. So I think what what YouTube are attempting to slowly do, and there is this idea that it's taken them their sweet time as they're using this language of slow burn and so on. um, Now maybe they're just doing it properly, before we throw them under a bus. But it is slow change. But what they're trying to do is, because they are really a video platform in their own words versus an audio platform, which is your predominant podcast, they are realizing that in order to serve creators and um, bring that the value that you want, they're going to create it. So a little bit like our Apple, you've got Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. What I like about what the changes that they are making is user centric. So, for example, our marketing podcast here, if there are people listening to, and I don't know how they're going to do this, but if they're listening to sort of music that might, or reading things that might signal an aligned interest with our podcast, they'll be given that as a suggestion. This, you might like this. Um, so, so I think, certainly the user experience on Apple Podcast and Spotify, for example, is that if you type in something, you are presented with not just music and songs, but also podcasts and other things. So YouTube are just enhancing so they can do that. So it's going to be much better for podcasters, and it is the largest place where people actually already go to consume podcasts. Um, it's free. You don't need a subscription, all of those things. So there's a lot of advantage to having YouTube, I guess, grow up in terms of the usability of it for those who want to use it for podcasting and for finding podcasts.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
It is
yeah. So I think
interesting.
it's like it's
Yeah. So what they're saying is that the podcast platforms are now uploading to YouTube to get their audience. I think this is something that everyone kind of intuitively knows, is that actually YouTube is the place where everybody is. Um,
yes,
I mean, they're already getting 2 billion views a month, one of these platforms. I think it's interesting. And what they're talking about is host read advertising. So, where hosts read out adverts. So, what are they going to do now? Include those views in any kind of compensation, or, I don't know, remuneration? It's interesting, isn't it? I think YouTube is the number one. We have put these on all of the other different places. We get far more views, listens. I don't think people watch necessarily, but they listen. The thing is, what is the difference between video and audio? If they just open another window and carry on with their work, they're essentially only getting the audio. I think it's interesting. It's where the market is YouTube. It's where the audience
yeah,
is.
yeah. What I think is interesting about it is that it's not a rush, utopian kind of announcement. It feels like it's a bit more thoughtful, which is nice to see from any
Yes.
platform.
Yes.
It feels, they're getting thrown out the bus for taking their time, but I quite like that about it. And they don't want to just be like mimicking Spotify. They actually say that intentionally they want to be different. So I feel like they are actually testing things, taking their time, but they are realizing that they are the bigger audience. So they want to take the best of what is useful, I suppose, and not just be like we are exactly the same as these others, but be a bit more intentional about it. So I quite like that. I think,
Yes.
even if it takes time, I'd rather you did take your time rather than just copy someone else, because there's also a graveyard of like Pinterest and others who've done that mistake already and had to backtrack. So, good for them.
Yes. And you've been consistent in this, I have to say. You've been extraordinarily consistent in this because this is what it seems like. Everyone's chasing each other down the same holes. I mean, there is room for diversity in the world. Not every platform has to do everything, is what I think. Okay, good. Right. So interesting. Good story. This brings us then to the last story that I bought, which is Search Engine Land have done some. Can we make that a bit smaller so we can actually see it? Um, Oh, but now you are seeing my screen as well. Despite increased churn with organisations, job satisfaction is high. A new search engine land survey finds. I've never looked at a search engine land survey before, I'll be very honest with you. But it's kind of interesting because what they do is they ask directors and then they ask the staff. So the thing that just screams to me is the difference between what the directors think is going on and what the staff actually think is going on. So, which of the following responsibilities do you have either directly or through people on your team? So, directors think this is what the teams are supposed to be doing. This is what they think they're supposed to be doing. So, things like design, run, and optimize test marketing campaigns. 67% of staff think they should be doing that. 81% of directors think they should be doing it. Design and manage internal workflows and processes. 53% staff, 71% directors. So you can see that there is always, like here, monitor data quality within marketing technology products. Nobody thinks they should be doing that. It's kind of just interesting, I think, what people think they should
This
be
is
doing and
so
what the directors
interesting.
think they should be doing. Was that?
Oh, this is so important. This is we run the NASA leadership program, and one of the behaviors for psychological safety in high performing teams is clear roles, accountability, and authority. And
Yes.
and so if it is, look, this is just a table of not clear, where
Yep.
one party thinks this party. So if you're united, some of the things they are, but if you're got a totally different opinion about what understanding about what you're supposed
Yes.
to be doing, then that is actually really
It's not very
disruptive.
good, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not great. It's quite interesting because it is one of the factors that NASA it took them down. They really had to rework that
Yes.
and get clear on who has authority for things and does that match to what they're supposed to do. Have a clarity. It's really important.
Yes. And so
Mm.
interesting
Mm.
things like architect the overall marketing stack of all marketing technology products used. 38% of directors think that's what's going on. Only 10% of the team. And here, perform security reviews of marketing technology products. Well, we've just spent the last hour talking about the fact that this is an issue. Nobody in SEO thinks there's any point in doing that. Do you know what I mean? Not even the directors think that's going on. I mean, 2.5 times as many directors as actual people think it's going on, but not. And interesting, like they live in spreadsheets, these search people. Which marketing technologies do you use? Marketers, maestros, spreadsheets, web, mobile, and marketing analytics. Yeah, I just think it's interesting. Just think it's interesting.
Can you send
Yeah.
me this link? It's something I mean, it is really um, quite interesting. Remember the great resignation of 2021. I'm just reading that sentence there as if it was like 1900. Like it's still happening.
Yes.
Before it's so this world is so like, yeah, that's totally yesterday. It's like over. It's still happening. So I don't think
Yes.
it's fixed. But it's, if anything, worse because people are now, whoever didn't resign is now completely exhausted. So
Yes.
then they probably, eventually resign. Yeah, it's so funny. But do you remember? Do you remember back then, 2 years ago? Anyway,
All the way back in 2021. This is what I'm talking about. People have such extraordinarily short memory spans and attention spans that you see something now, and in 2 seconds' time, you've completely forgotten about it. But you've established that that was the truth. Okay, super cool. We have to end this, Melanie Farmer. I think we did a good job with some not very exciting news this week. I mean, I think I don't want to be talking about ChatGPT all the time is my issue in my life. But I think we did a fantastic job. And we finished on time. You've got 5 minutes before your next thing. So,
perfect.
bless you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
So, for anyone who's still with us, if you haven't yet liked, subscribed, commented, blah, 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 done all those good things to keep us motivated, now would be a great time to do that. You're an absolute legend, Melanie Farmer. Thank you so much. I'm going to put something in your calendar again for about 2 weeks' time, and we'll do this all over again. And let's hope there's some more interesting news for us to talk about.
Yeah, cool.
All right. I'll catch you later. Thank you for taking the time to check out this episode of Marketing News. If you found this interesting and useful, then YouTube thinks you're really going to enjoy this, and this is the last thing that we've posted. If you haven't yet, and you could take a second to like, share, and subscribe and comment, that will give us the motivation to continue on this epic, epic journey.